All right, we're in.
Wait, it's not.
Hello.
It's not 5:30. Oh yeah, it is.
What? Whoa. I don't know why that was still playing.
All right, we're in. It's not even 5:30.
What? Whoa. Weird. Okay. I think it's just some
Is
sort
there
of
gonna
delay.
be like a weird lag though? I don't think I can handle that.
Yeah, because we were watching us on YouTube. Okay, we're good now. All right, sorry about that, folks. I had it up on YouTube because I was like waiting on it, and then when we jumped in, it was playing it on YouTube too. We're good. We're in.
As long as I can't hear
Hi,
myself.
hello, everybody. Welcome to the Matt and Grace Show, the Grace and Matt Show. Sorry.
Smart move. Smart move.
Yes. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We'll give it just a second for everybody else to jump in. Drop your team color in the comment section with your favorite emoji. Do it now. Also, too, this episode is brought to you.
Your favorite emoji, like for your team, or your favorite just emoji?
Well, you could put like your color and then maybe your favorite emoji. I don't know. We don't want to overcomplicate it. Okay. Well, hello.
Just like playing by the. Okay.
All right. So we're in.
Brad just puts whiskey.
No, Brad put.
Brad puts. I can't see that far, obviously.
Okay. Well.
Or did he put this one?
I was gonna go switch it off. Yeah, he put that one.
Okay, sorry, Brad didn't put whiskey.
There it is.
He put that one.
So
so hi.
What are we starting with here?
I
forgot.
We just went over.
I know, and I completely blanked on it.
So Matt's gonna do the introduction.
Can you leave? Oh my gosh! Already week 4.
Dun, dun.
So you know what that means? We're gonna be weighing you in halfway through to see which one of you guys are lying.
No, we said that we're not talking about that. No, we're not talking. Okay, so we're getting.
You got to leave me part
halfway measurements. So we're not doing inches and all that. And I had mentioned this morning. Just weights to check in because it's just motivating. It's nice. That's why we don't do weight every week because there's a lot of different things that play into weight. So I had suggested today to not eat a bunch of salt before your weigh-in. But just depending
salt tablets
on your sleep, a bunch of different things can affect your weight. But generally, if you are like trying to lose weight during this challenge, and that's something that's important to you, you should be able to see some kind of progress by now at the 4-week mark. But honestly, there's been some people who have seen like tons of progress up until this point, and then by the end of the challenge, they see like very little from now until then. Or there's also people whose bodies really don't change at all in the first week. They feel like they've changed, but they haven't. And then we see like a dramatic weight change by the final. So just it's just one of the markers we use. We use many of them. Yes.
I was just displaying everybody's little things as they came through. So they're putting all their stuff in.
Cameraman.
Okay, we should be good now. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just dropped.
It'll be in the email, and there'll be weights. We just need to get your weight by, I think like sometime between like Friday and Sunday, if that's possible. If not, we can start as early as Thursday. No big deal. You can use the scale at CFL. If you're not someone who likes to know your weight, I'm happy to be there with you for that and not read it out loud. Or you could just take a picture of your scale at home at any time and just snap a photo of it and send it over to me.
Yeah.
You don't have to send it to your group. Don't send it to your group. Just send it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, send it to your group if you want to, but don't. That's not a thing. Just send it to me, private.
I know you already said it, but just to go back, like people shouldn't definitely not harp on it. I always tell people like pay way more attention about how you feel because I think, and we'll go into the Atomic Habits piece. Was that next or was that after you were going to do? Oh no, you were going to recap. I'm sorry. I forgot. It needed to be written down. I know we went over it, but I forgot. Do you remember it?
Written down like you couldn't write it down.
I couldn't remember it.
There's a lot of things for him to remember.
We had an outline and then I forgot it.
We had to specifically go over an outline.
Okay, so we did the intro. You did the halfway point measurements. Now we're gonna do the Spirit Winner in the week. Okay, boom. I'm back online. Here people. We are.
The Spirit Winner this week
was slow.
Now we got. I just stuttered. We have 2. We have the individual Spirit Winner. We have the team Spirit Winner.
Spirit Winner.
The individual Spirit Winner actually this week, though, it started off really strong for one contender. There was quite a few people who this week had shown either ridiculous amounts of spirit. Unnecessary reasons. Or people that have had just like some kind of hard things going on and they've been battling it and they've come out on the other side. But really Troopas,
you are.
There's, I I have this person called it out from the show last week saying that their team didn't have enough points.
Who is it? I'm drum rolling.
This is Andre.
Andre.
So Andre,
congratulations.
He's on the black team.
Spirit winner.
He
Black
decided last
team.
week they're probably not getting in enough points. He needed to start shaping up. He sent pictures of his dog, which I like dog pics.
He did.
He sent pictures of his dog every single day, every morning in his workout, motivated his team.
Yes.
He really went for the points. And he was consistent.
I'm trying to get a word in here.
Week.
I'm trying to get a word in.
Let's go over to Matt.
Thank you. Yes. Let's just go ahead and tilt this all the way. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It's fine. It's right back to where
Great.
it is.
Why don't you talk and not look at the screen?
Okay. Well, I have to. Someone's got to produce the show here. Anyhow, yeah, I was gonna say because he called it out. He was like, "I'm gonna be upping up my." What would you call it? Participation in the group team text. And then he did exactly that. Which
literally every day.
If there's something I like, somebody calling their shot and then sticking to it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Lots of dog pics. We're into that.
So congratulations. Yes.
That's to Andre. So that's 10 points for an individual winner. Now, the team points. I really wanted to then. It went between two teams. And really, even the black team the whole time, because we had black team. I think that's Brandon, Nakoa, Annabelle, and Tim. And Andre really brought the team there, and they were really like ready to even win both awards.
Ready to win both.
But then in the water balloon toss this morning, Nakoa didn't even have anyone to throw it to.
Oh.
He was the only person who was by himself for the whole black team. So
left your boy out there. Did he throw it up and then try to run to the other side and catch it himself?
I think he threw it at Lindsay Keel, like to make it like blow up on her own purpose. He'll argue otherwise. Lily stepped in as a black team member, but I think we have at the same time the Eliminators.
Shout out, Eliminators
have been.
Is this our team winner?
Really spirited the whole time.
Boom.
And while I will mention that I do not respond to threats, Brad Roots, if someone does not win the individual spirit award, you will quit on Monday. So we will have to see what happens there. But their team has been. We do not
respond to threats.
Their team has been consistently spirited to each other, to God knows the outside world. But one part being Brad Erickson trying to get his cat in a lemon head costume for the past couple of weeks.
Hilarious photos.
And
do we have permission to share those? As soon as I figure out, I have to figure out how to work this a little bit better. Maybe I say that and never do it every week. But there is a way to like post the photos and things. So if we get a little permission from them, maybe we could do a recap, or we could do a thing at the end where it's like closing time and then the photos fade. It's like blowing up people's all right, and here we go.
Okay. They have a constant. Remember, you guys stop and drink your water right now. Chat between all of them. Apparently, Savannah was on the news. Just the team has been coming in solid.
Savannah was on the news.
They have Kristen, who's coming back to the gym, and she just comes every Sunday. She kills it. I mean, they just have a good team.
She comes every Sunday. Black team, take notes, because apparently 4 of you guys can't show up.
Well, it was just a lot all at the same time when it was already. But
trigger figures turning into Twitter figures.
Point being, black team did awesome this week, especially Andre. Yellow team, though, +5 for the Eliminators.
Should have got double points for the funniness of the text. Okay, carrying on. Where are we going next? Atomic Habits?
Yes.
Is it my cue? Boom. Okay, we're talking Atomic Habits. Get that Spirit Wieners out. Spirit Wieners. The book. Okay, so.
Do you literally have a little tag thing for just what you're talking about right now?
I have them for what all of us are talking about.
Okay.
Yours, I had the email going, and then I had spirit winners up there, and then I had team spirit winners up there in bigger bold like that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Check it on the recap.
But nothing about any of these 4 pieces of paper.
You didn't tell me what you needed, and I will type them up as we go.
We did.
We will.
Okay. We're gonna talk about it. Probably once the camera's off.
Okay. This is a live production.
Yep,
all right.
On.
We got to keep on with the show.
Atomically habit me.
Okay. Atomic Habits. So this on this week, I want to particularly talk about the 2-minute rule. He discusses this about halfway through the book. So I'm not really sure where everybody is in the book right now. But essentially what it's talking about is when you're starting to try to engrave, when you're starting to get into a new habit, make it super simple. So he cites if you're trying to start running, just put on your running shoes. That's it.
What if you're trying
and
to
then take them off?
Not be late all the time?
Well, then
Hypothetically.
Yeah. Well, then start by turning all your clocks back 10 minutes in the house.
And then if they're 10 minutes.
Here's what you would do. You would start. What is oftentimes when you're late, you're missing something, your wallet, your keys, your phone. It's scattered about, right?
This isn't me. This is just
Am I right? You said it. I'm just saying. So what we would do is we would do the 2-minute rule. So we would take 2 minutes to gather all the essentials that you need before you leave the house, put it in the purse and put it right by the door.
This isn't about me.
So that short step is already done prior to whatever it is you're doing. So it's not some huge monumental shift, but it's something really small. I noted this early on when I said I wanted to first start reading every night.
Okay.
I would open my book to whatever, wherever I was on the page, and I would lay it down on the pillow. So that way I had to consciously like close the book and decide not to read rather than having to decide to read by getting my book out, opening it up, right? There's a lot of friction in that process because, you got to do stuff. It's not just handed to you.
So what's the 2-minute rule?
So the 2-minute rule was it took me 2 minutes to open my book and set it on the pillow, or less than 2 minutes before I went to bed. So now it was set up that way when I went to bed. Just like if we took the 2-minute rule and rather than committing to running a 5K or running, whatever, a mile or 2 miles, if you just first start committing to putting your running shoes on, or let's say you were trying to get more on your stationary bike, like my dad does at home, his whole thing should be just getting on it and riding it for less than 2 minutes. That way he doesn't have to overthink it in his head. He's just going to walk out there, sit on the bike, ride it for less than 2 minutes, and just commit to that 3 days a week because it's easy. If you start thinking, I'm going to be on there 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you start making excuses as to why you're not going to do it. So going back to the running shoes, if my habit is to go running and I put my running shoes on, now I consciously have to take them off and decide not to run. It's easier just to commit to putting the shoes on than it is commit to running around the block or, whatever excuses you will make. So then maybe it at least turns into a walk where you do something or take a call on your phone as opposed to the nothing. So it feels like you're always working towards that habit. And as we talked about at the beginning, the 1% rule, meaning if I just focus on getting 1% better every single day over a long period of time, that'll compound, is next thing I know, I find myself being somebody that goes on walks or throws my running shoes on and goes running before I do XYZ. So we're focusing on the 2-minute rule. So what can you guys do? What sort of like food, especially we're talking about the nutrition challenge here, what type of habit are you trying to instill? So, I don't know. I'm going to throw out another example. Or did I pretty much make the point?
No, just like the little things that you can implement kind of like all day long. Like people are challenging. They've been doing good, like I guess now at getting in their water.
Yeah.
Like they're getting it in. But I'd say like I've heard a lot of complaints about people getting it in like, oh my God, it's 8 p.m. and now I start to drink it.
Yeah. Well, here's another one. I think now as they're moving into the halfway point and going from the honeymoon phase where the inspiration now is starting to run low, now we're forgetting to meal prep, which we all know preparation is going to be key. So for those of you guys that are at that point now, we know that what happens when I'm not prepared in my food.
To meal prep, we're not any longer taking the time out to stop and meal prep.
Okay, exactly.
Like forgetting is a way too easy way of saying it because that's acting like it was just like a passive thought that was going to happen. And it's realizing that you have to stop and really like, if you want to see a change and you want to make these things happen, like they don't just happen. You have to stop and plan a chunk out of your day in order for that to
so let's pause there. Let's go back to our 2-minute rule. So let's dissect right now. So if your guys' issue is your preparation before, what is the 2-minute thing that they should do in preparation?
In preparation for but like stopping on like one day when you realize like I have a Sunday and just like putting on your calendar, maybe that would be some time that you have. So just realizing that you could like stop and plan some time out or making choices that are easier to meal prep like later on, like Trader Joe's has like packets of like frozen rice and whatnot, brown rice. So you could just have those. So legitimately, I think it's 2 or 3 minutes in the microwave to make just one change that you'd at least have that kind of go-to food or like foods that are easier and convenient to just toss together in case, you were at a time in your workday where you couldn't stop and do a whole.
Yeah. And so I think as far as the meal prep, you said a couple of things in there that's important to dissect and try to break down further. Meal prepping is going to be in now 2 phases. Number 1, getting the food. Number 2, preparing the food. So you could, by categorizing that in 2 separate things, you could set 2, 2-minute drill or less
list of what you'd need to do.
Exactly. So number 1, make a list and then tie that list to some sort of reminder or timer on your phone on the day that you plan on doing it. So now at least that takes 2 minutes. You could just say, go grocery shopping, maybe attach a list to that, or at least just go grocery shopping. set it for your supposed time in day that you're going to go grocery shopping, and then set that alarm to go off a couple times throughout the day. So it's bringing it up to your conscious level thought. So you're having to purposely ignore it. And then maybe you can either put in a strategy on another time to go, or just go then, because now it's you reminding you. You could also now utilize and lean on your guys' team. I would say maybe even getting some extra points from participation, because if you guys are saying, hey, I'm going grocery shopping at X time and whatever, putting out that commitment, even nobody responds, at least it's out there and you've kind of announced it. So now you could hold yourself accountable to it. And then the second part of it for the food prep, get yourself some sort of whatever you package it in or whatever you use, the utensil you use, just lay those out real quick at some point during the day. And then that way you have to either consciously put them all away, or, you just meal prep and get some of it done. And even if you went just 2 days at a time rather than the whole week, that could be another way to start to break down your prepping portion of that.
I think also like just simplifying kind of the entire plan of what you have. Realizing convenience foods got like a really bad rap on them for a really long time. And now that we're in 2021, like things have really advanced and they're not really that bad anymore. So you don't have to like reinvent the wheel every time you're doing something. Like things, you can start with the pre-cut veggies that you already buy. So when you go to the store, buying those. So then when you get home and your pan's out and whatever, because that's what you've done.
Right.
You just throw them on there and put them in the oven, and it's basically like done before you're even like thinking about it. You don't have to go through the entire process every time. So.
Yeah. And so just finding the little hacks and different ways you could do that. Ryan said here, that's how I think about CrossFit. It's just part of my day. I don't think of it in terms of like being optional.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. A lot of people just they just like aimlessly like drive to the gym right when they're done with work. Like it's just part of.
And I think that's important, because especially if you get into a habit of that, and you guys know at CFL and everything, we just take you through your warm up and your stretching and everything else. All you got to do is get yourself to the gym.
I will.
And then you will go through the other side and you will never regret it.
Give the green team props for this. And this was specifically Todd Lopes and to Ariana, because Ariana was not feeling it one day. It happens to all of us. That was me on Wednesday. And Todd said, just get yourself
all of us, that's for sure.
to the gym, get yourself there, go through the warm up. If you want to leave after the warm up, leave after the warm up. It doesn't matter. But get yourself to the gym.
That? Todd said that?
Todd said
that. Yeah, shout out to Todd. That's great.
Ariana did specifically that. And she said she got herself there just literally thinking like, I'm just going to get myself warmed up, because you guys know you feel better after you warm up. Like your body's just not as achy. If you still don't want to partake in the workout portion, that's fine. Go home. But usually by the time you're there and you're around people, but just getting yourself to be like, this is like 20 minutes. Like I can move for 20 minutes. Check off your little 20-minute exercise for the day. You guys are good,
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, Todd. I think congratulations on that little comment there, because if that's the way you think about it, just one step at a time rather than the whole thing. The whole thing sometimes seems like a daunting task, but just break it down and then just chip away at that one rep at a time, right? Get yourself to the gym, do your warm up.
This is true.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about the Atomic Habits thing or anything like that, throw it in there. Again, that's about halfway through the book, so you guys will get to that point. But there's so much awesome material in this, so I'll just be continuing to pull little nuggets out of it as we go through. And then if there's anything you guys want to specifically cover, let it know. But now I think we're on to, there was a comment. If you keep the sign of going even after COVID, so people way to commit to the gases. Yeah, married to that respect, I think.
Hold on, let them know what you're talking about.
So yes, I'll throw her comment up there. Yeah. So Mary just said, if you keep the sign up going even after COVID, it's a great way for people to commit, even if the classes get bigger. Yeah, I think we were pre-COVID, we were already getting our ideas going about how we're going to organize everybody, because the classes were getting big. So I don't see much in the way of changing anything in the immediate future, other than the fact as we become more comfortable with it and as the situation levels itself out, we will be able to get class sizes bigger, because we do have plenty of space to do that and we have plenty of equipment to do that. But I don't see kind of the organization piece or like your own kind of equipment and space piece of that going away ever, really.
No, your own kind of spot.
I think it's just your own kind of spot.
Space.
Yeah, you've always had your own
equipment, but like.
But I mean, like a physical, like laid out area, and perhaps even getting
it's funny because that was literally something we kept talking about, and we had like the blue system and the red system, depending on how many people you had, and how coaches can help, because people would be in a line. Like it was a whole thing before. Now it kind of like jump started that, but not as crazy as it is right now.
Yeah. So that's something that'll definitely be continuing in the future.
But a lot of people have said that though about signing up for a class because it's like they've already put their name in, and then they're like, I either have to like cancel the class or go.
Yeah, and I guess
That's
I should tie my point in there. The point being is that if we always have the spots, you always have to guarantee your spot at the gym. So then therefore we'll always be continuing to sign up.
Yeah.
I forgot to tie that in.
I've heard a lot of people saying that, like, oh, I signed up for this afternoon and I didn't want to cancel it. So like, I guess I'll go.
Right.
So
okay, so we want to roll into the carbohydrates. And I think I did. Yeah. Look, boom. How about that? What the carb? So I did put something in there for you ahead of time.
A little tiny baby one?
Well, it was the ticker one. I could pull it off the ticker.
No, I'll take it.
The ticker's more.
I like it because it moves.
Do you want the ticker?
Yeah.
Okay, it's back on. Ticker's back on. Okay.
Make sure it's what I wanted.
So what the carb? Carbohydrates. Oh, the tapping. You hear it all the time.
Tapping.
You hear the carbohydrate term, and I'm off the carbs and everything else. But Grace is about to now break that down for us here.
Chakalaka.
Take it away.
So first, carbs, sugar, all tied into one thing. This week is carbohydrates as carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Next week is sugars. So if you guys have sugar questions, that comes in next week because there's like a basic understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about carbs. It has to be laid down first. You guys have to understand them. So first being carbs. And it's not that you guys have to understand them. We just have to all be talking the same words and understanding the same things.
So you have to understand them.
Carbs, you have to understand them. You have to understand them as I understand them, I guess, if you're going to say. Carbohydrates are the least expensive form of all of those 3 macronutrients that we've been talking about. So the last time it was protein, sort of. This time it's carbohydrates, and then there's fat. So those are the 3 main carbohydrates that we take in. And they're the cheapest kind. And so they're found all over the world in all different kinds of forms, but they get this really bad rep. So why does that happen? Okay, question. So there's 2 different kinds of carbs when we're talking about it. There's simple carbohydrates and there's complex carbohydrates. So simple carbohydrates are sugars, and those mainly get broken down into 2 groups. Those are called monosaccharides and disaccharides. So mono, not just the kissing disease. Is that what they still call it?
Keep going.
Okay. Is 1. So it's 1 little sugar. And there's 3 different types of them. There's fructose, as you guys have heard. There's glucose, as you guys have heard a lot of. And then there's galactose. So those little monosaccharides. That's a
space one.
That's the one that lives in space. That's space sugar. So those 3 are the ones that form the simplest version of them. They're called monosaccharides. And like, basically everything we're doing gets broken down into those 3 types. Then the disaccharides are made up of 2 of those mono ones. So 2. So there's 2 little ones in them. The main ones are lactose, as you guys have heard from milk and milk sugars. And that's glucose and galactose like linked together. That forms lactose. And then there's maltose and there's sucrose. That gets the rap all the time. Sucrose is 1 glucose and 1 fructose, kind of bonded together. And that's what makes a disaccharide. So all of those things break down into those monosaccharides, which kind of is like what makes the whole thing go around. There's also complex carbohydrates.
Wait, you mean tell me that wasn't complex enough?
Well, those words.
Get it? Okay, keep going.
Complex. I'm there. Sweet. I'm there. It took a second. I'm there. I guess, no, I should say, though, there's also trisaccharides. So there's 3 of them, together. But that is
Fruit Loops.
Oh, that'd be cool, though. Well, kind of. That's high fructose corn syrup, which, again, sugar we can go into after, because that's kind of what that happens.
I thought I was joking.
A tri. And there's, different other kinds. But basically, that's that. That's all we need to know. Now, complex carbohydrates, because you hear that those are, good, better for you, but, what are they? They're things that are starches, and they're things that are of those monosaccharides that we talked about. There's 10 or more, 10, even a bajillion of them in a chain together. And then they form into polysaccharides. So multiple of those little guys all together in a line. One of the big parts of those comes in terms with fiber. I'm just going to branch off into fiber. Sorry. I'm going to branch off. Jesus Christ, that scared me. My birthday balloon is still up. It's another birthday. But fiber. I'm branching into fiber because that is one of the complex carbohydrates, which is why vegetables are so important and why your 2 servings go up to 3 servings this week.
Oh.
But one of the things I found the stat that was actually really interesting. The average daily intake in the US for fiber is about 12 to 14 grams of fiber. Do you know how much men under the age of 30 are supposed to get in? We have 12
45.
to 14. Okay, well, don't go over the top, 38 grams of fiber for men.
I get in 45, but
you absolutely do not. Under 50. And then if you're above 50, it goes to 30 grams. And then for women, if you're under 50, it's 25 grams. And if you're over 50, it's 21 grams. But on average, which means there's people that get in significantly below this, we get in about 12 to 14 grams of fiber every day. So there's 2 different types. Where are my fiber things? Oh, that's just an extra piece of paper. Here I was thinking that was all important. There's 2 different types of fiber. Now we're calling them different things of whatever, different types of fiber. But as terms of that, we might understand them as there's soluble and then there's insoluble fiber. So soluble means that that water makes the water comes into the cell. So it bulks it up. No, water comes into the cell. So the water then itself, that's absolutely not what it does get bigger, but anyways, okay. Water comes into the cell, and then the bacteria in your entire gut, which there's a microbiome thing that I have to send out to you guys, but that water, makes the bacteria in your cell kind of like eat it, go after it. And it helps all of that in your system. The other part is the insoluble one. So the water doesn't come into the cell, but the fiber itself then acts as just bulk as it moves around in your gut on the way down. So of the multiple benefits of fiber, because we're always like, there's a lot of people who do like different types of greens and stuff in their smoothies and stuff like that. And they're always saying, does this count for a vegetable serving? Because that's like a constant question. And so in terms of vitamins and minerals and all of that really, really great stuff, yes, absolutely. That stuff is awesome. And it usually blends it all down. So you get tons of really good stuff, but it's still not giving you usually fiber, which is like what we're going after. So there's like quite a few.
Interesting question on the fiber topic here. Ryan asks, do fiber requirements go up with heavy activity and increased protein intake? So
they can help. Yeah, they would, yes, go up with increased protein intake because it kind of, as we're going to say, it kind of like helps it all suck all the way through and moves all of that food that you're taking in to go through your stomach. So you guys know after you've had like a really like gross meal that just kind of like sits there forever. And then a lot of you guys have also then experienced, if you're eating a lot more vegetables and fruits and dried fruits and your stomach is just having a lot of different issues than it's had before, that's generally the fiber that's being introduced. So that's kind of how you kind of feel it. Now, we just talked about that water soluble one that's giving that bacteria life. That's what we're talking about in terms of like gas and different stuff that's happening inside of your system. So it gets to a point when then you've had it and your body's introduced to it and your body is then like realizes it and it's fine. It's just when we're introducing that for the first like few weeks and our diet's different, that's like a huge change that your body's like, what are we doing here?
Is that why you did the 2 servings and then introduce 3 servings to kind of slowly introduce that more? Or
for the people that haven't had it, yes. And even like, I would say even me who's like, I don't know. I generally like drink water and get in my vegetables and whatnot because I like vegetables. It's like I don't necessarily do. I don't do it every single day, which is like one of those habit parts of the challenge that you're trying to just add on a little bit of like behavior changes, and you don't need to do 100 of them at one time, which I feel like is generally what people want when they're doing some kind of nutrition take. Like I want to overhaul this and really change. But if you kind of just introduce it, now we're getting in 2 and we realize that like, oh, I can add it in at breakfast with spinach and then I can get it in here. Now you've realized there's probably somewhere else where you can add it again instead of just overwhelming you, and overwhelming again your system.
And then Brad had another comment here, which I think I could answer this one. He said, what type is fiber optic? And that's called a colonoscopy, my friend. And that is a camera on the end of that bad boy. So eat your fiber now and that'll help with that later on.
So anyways, there's a few different benefits just already. We don't need to like just talk about fiber, but that insoluble kind adds to, again, it creates all this, oh my God, I always in my mind, Okay, we don't need to talk about that, but that's the one that's kind of bouncing around and just taking up space. And when that's happening, it's contributing to like bulk, as they say. So it makes all that's happening when there's more pulling it through and more just volume. All the food that's coming through spends less time in like your intestines and your gut. And some of those cells that happen some of those cells that exist in there, if they spend too much time kind of like hanging out the whole time going through your intestine, they have more contact with the cell wall, which is like been proven to be part of like what can cause any kind of cancer, colon cancer and that kind of stuff. So if they don't have that much time to stand there and talk to the cell wall the whole time, and they're kind of moving through.
Movement is medicine.
Yeah,
even through your gut. Well, let's break it down to a practical thing real quick. What's like 3 foods that would give them that fiber?
Hold on, we're not there yet. We're gonna get
not there yet. We're gonna get there, guys. I'm gonna get her there. Don't you worry.
And then we're gonna talk about the idea of GI after. So that's just like that takes your time, that takes your stomach, that's food that has sugars but that it has fiber in it. So it takes your stomach, not your intestines, it takes your stomach longer to digest all of that. And so it delays how fast your stomach dumps the food into your intestines where most stuff is absorbed. It kind of breaks it down and it takes longer to break it down. So then it's signaling to your brain still that like, hold on, we're not empty yet. Because once your stomach is empty, there's hormones that are like, we're empty up here. And that's when you can feel, so you can feel fuller longer if there's just more food that's digesting still in your stomach. So that's also like a really good benefit to it of like, in terms of like weight loss, whatnot. And then the soluble feeling fuller longer. Yeah. And, and also the fact that it's not dumping as fast means that you're
processing it better.
Yes.
See, I'm here. You got the smart part of it. I'm here to break it down for the people.
Yes. I just don't want to like, you can start laying it on thick, but not you. I can. And then there's that soluble fiber, which means the water has come into it. And that itself, that kind of fiber can bind to different types of cells. So it can bind to those cancer causing cells and just like bind to it and then kind of carry it, like it ushers it out and it's like, hey, we got a piece out of here. So it kind of takes it out of your system. And then it can also do that with things that are called bile salts, which is the term cholesterol. And cholesterol attaches to the bile salts. So then when the fiber's coming through and it sees a bile salt, your body will recycle those. But if there's cholesterol attached to it and the fiber comes through and says like, yo, we're going to piece out, it takes the cholesterol out so it can lower your body's cholesterol level,
so
which is good for heart disease and whatnot. Yeah.
It takes out all the bad leads to good.
It kind of like attaches itself to the bad stuff and says, it's time to go. So kind of like Dylan at the holiday party when Kim goes, it's time to go.
So you can imagine if you consisted of a diet with those other type of carbohydrates, the refined processed carbohydrates, and you accompanied that with a soda every night and then never had any vegetables, what would that do to your gut in the way the food is being processed?
Your gut is like a big dumpster and it's just the saddest, smelliest raccoon-filled dumpster.
It would not go over well. Okay, moving on. What are you going now? Complex carbs?
Yes. So, well, no, that is complex carbs.
Okay.
Complex carbs, yeah. They're kind of like a bunch of that big, long chain, but like often we like to talk about them in terms of like they have also fiber in them. Those simple carbs don't have fiber in them. So, how much carbohydrate do we need? Hypothetically, our bodies can live on only protein and fat, which is like a big thing with the keto diet. And things can break down into different things. So yes, hypothetically talking, we can live on a very minimal amount of carbohydrate. However, carbohydrates are what provide our Western diet with almost most of our vitamins, minerals, fiber, our phytochemicals, or the stuff in the vegetables and whatnot. So we have a huge micronutrient deficiency that generally happens when we take out carbohydrates in general. Now, that's saying that we're already at a healthy diet and then we take out carbohydrates, because then insert
the keto diet.
The keto diet.
Sorry, I was lost in the woods of the complex carbs.
But the keto diet.
Fibers.
Super kind of important. All kinds of those like Atkins diets and whatever, because you see people doing them and they work. And they definitely work. Don't get me wrong.
But do they work long term?
They work because we're cutting out it works in the exact same way, except for like maybe more noticeable, in the same way the challenge is working for you. Because what you're cutting out isn't anything wild and crazy, and you can still, because keto would just be still cutting out like rice, potatoes, all of those kinds of things that you're happening.
About the long term being more so like the lifestyle, not necessarily like the health of it. We know that you could be in ketosis for a long period of time and be completely fine.
Yeah, you're just
it's just about lifestyle.
So keto works like two ways. Keto works because you're generally cutting out like an entire food group, of which we get our super high dense carbohydrates in alcohol, in all of our like high refined sugars, which we all know we love so much because everyone gets headaches, and
donuts,
all of those kinds of things. We're taking that out. So usually like it's a caloric change that people see. You're getting in less calories, less energy. Your body just weighs less. Like that's just simple. It's not because of any of the crazy science behind it. It's literally because you're eating less food. So that's all. And then at the same time, unless you really, really understand what you're doing with it, I would say that like it's a huge micronutrient deficiency that's happening because your body isn't receiving. Most people like they even cut out like dairy, they cut out all of these things, and that's where like all your calcium, all of those vitamins that your body gets in, all of those nutrients that you get in from fruits and vegetables and whole grains, like those are gone. So it definitely, all of those diets can be done better, but like the of them is short-lived because your body is now missing out on a lot of different things.
Yeah. And it's so hard to sustain.
I mean,
for some people are really disciplined about it. And maybe they have to for medical reasons as well too, which, whatever. But it's really tough to sustain that for long periods of time.
Yeah, it is. And it's not, any of those diets that kind of give you this is going to fix all your problems. They're not going to fix all your problems.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next part here.
Sort of. Moving on next would be digestion.
Digestion.
Got it. Digestion. Well, I was going to make you answer that. You probably just
I didn't read it. No, I can't see it.
Where does digestion first begin?
When you chew.
Well, yes, but then also why?
To break it down to swallow it?
Because you
poop?
Oh my God, no.
Oh, you throw me a curveball here.
And
you throw me a
curveball here.
Spit. Okay. Oh, your spit? Your spit?
This is poop to you? That's disgusting.
You made a P sound. We're talking about digestion. I don't know. It's word association. And we're back.
Here we are. It begins in your spit. You have your carbohydrates. Now, yes, it also begins in your teeth because you start like breaking it down.
Before we go into that, this is actually a good question. I keep seeing net carbs on food packages. What does that mean? What does it mean, net carbs?
Okay, yeah, so that has to do with the amount of carbs that you have and the amount of sugar, the amount of fiber that happens. So
everything lumped into one number.
So it takes it out. If you get to have like more carbs or more fiber and whatnot, it takes out the number of, they're better carbs, but that comes in. Yeah, they're better carbs.
So net,
the kind of carbs that you,
on food packages.
For us, we don't think about it like that because we think about them in terms of energy. So that's not something that matters to us because it's still 15 grams of total carbohydrate coming from a little bit from sugar and a little bit from fiber and whatnot. Our body is still then sees that as 15 grams in terms of the energy that we're talking about. So then we care.
Okay. So that's a collective of all the carbohydrates, but for our purposes, it's not worth looking at.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
So just go off the regular carbohydrate list there.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to digestion.
Digestion.
It starts with spit.
Well, it starts also with like you chew it. So you like break it down.
Yeah. That's nailed it.
But anyways, everything that gets broken down up to those monosaccharides, those little one guys, all of those then get converted into one of the monosaccharides. What is that monosaccharide? There's already a microphone. That's funny, but this is the microphone. Which one?
Beans.
You get galactose, fructose, and glucose. What does our body convert it all into?
Sugar. Glucose.
Oh my gosh, good answer. Yeah. So
we didn't go over these before.
Beans. I thought that
pizza.
I mean, everything comes down into glucose because that's what our body uses. We use glucose as all types of energy that we got. So That's just like a fun little fact. We're talking about blood glucose. So that's the sugar that's existing in our blood. And you guys feel this when like you have really low blood sugar and you're like, I'm going to pass out, or like you start to not feel good. That has to do with your nervous system. So that has to do with your brain and all those kinds of things that are happening. That's what blood glucose is good for. In the contrary, that's what blood glucose then ends up being. If we have too much of it in our body, that becomes a whole other thing. But not having enough, or like kind of what it does is support that nervous system. And then the other form of glucose in our body gets the stored version, and that's called glycogen. And that lives in our liver and it lives in our muscles. And to us as athletes, we care about that a lot because it's CrossFitters. It has to do with our anaerobic power and also our aerobic power. So that glycogen is very, very important.
So what you're doing in your Metcon is metabolic conditioning, which is converting that glycogen into energy in the form of a wall ball or a kettlebell swing or those pesky double unders you love to hate. Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is true.
So
now there's
garbage in, garbage out.
Different. That one's more of like our GI problems, but this one,
I can't see the microphones in the way.
That's okay. GI. In terms of glycemic index, and that was a popular term for a while, and this kind of ties back in with that other type of carbohydrate. So the glycemic index is no longer like a really legit way to think about it, but it's still just kind of important when you're understanding it, because it's the way that you score 50 grams, just bear with me on this, of carbohydrates and what happens to your body when you ingest that over the period of 2 hours. So if I had like 50 grams of banana, 50 grams of rice, and 50 grams of
salmon.
No, only carbohydrates.
Okay.
White bread.
Beans.
Gatorade. Beans. We're really into beans tonight. Over the fact of 2 hours. So now they're classified as either high, medium, or low. If they're high, they're above 70. They're medium, they're above 55. If they're low, they're under that. So we stopped really listening to this as kind of like a super legit reason, because every body digests these in a different way. And then every time that you eat carbohydrates, you're not necessarily like eating them like as just beans. Okay, so as just white bread. I usually have white bread, and then I put
something else with it.
Yes.
Cheese, meat, salmon.
Ew.
I'm on the salmon thing.
Not eating salmon and beans tonight. But generally, the ones that are lower of that GI tend to have more fiber in them because they don't spike the same amount of blood sugar reaction that the ones that are high. So some of the foods that are high are potatoes, honey, white bread, Gatorade. Those are cray high. So if you ever like needed a boom little spike in your blood sugar, those are great ways to have it. Some other things that are low are legitimately beans, dairy, and then actually really a lot of the fruit. Some of them end up getting medium and up there, but like apples are under, grapefruits are pretty low. So those kinds of things. Those things do though the way that you cook those foods. So like
it changes the way
it can change the GI in that. So that's just kind of one of those things. It's just kind of interesting if you guys wanted to know how to lower them or bake them. I'm sorry, are you over this?
No, I was just thinking like glycemic index is like, that makes sense because you're just scoring foods and how high it is versus how low it is.
Yeah, like kind of what it does on the inside.
Yes.
And you guys know what that feels, or it feels like. And recently one of our challengers has had like their skin started changing after some of the foods. So that was one of the things, is some people can notice that when they tend to have higher GI foods, it can cause an inflammatory response because that blood sugar is around and what's happening with insulin in our bodies. Again, that's next week's topic. But that can cause kind of a response from all parts of your body, even your skin cells. So you can see kind of like breakouts and whatever with that as something that happens. And as a reference for those sugars of the GI talk, honey is high because it's at 73, so that's above 70. And then in that middle range is sucrose, which is one of those disaccharides. And then below that in the low range is lactose, which is one of those disaccharides at 46. And then the lowest one is fructose, which is the sugar that we like, which is fruit sugar. So that's like, usually people are like, well, why can we have, but why can I have carbohydrates, but I have to be aware of sugar because what's that? So that fruit sugar, that fructose is a very, very low amount of response that our body is going to see versus, and this is next week's topic, but when we're taking fruit out of something, or I'm sorry, taking sugar out of something, and that's called refined sugar, and adding it into something, our body is going to respond a lot different to that food as like in terms of spiking our blood sugar than it is into that fructose when it's digesting that fruit sugar and fiber and all these things along with it.
It's like the difference between using that hypervolt massage gun to get a muscle knot out, right? That's your low GI.
Okay.
And then you could also hook up your car battery and shock the shit out of your leg. That's your high GI. So you can see there's lots of electricity and vibration happening through the tissue, but the rate of which that's penetrating your leg is going to have a different effect.
I don't think that anyone should ever do this.
I just like to bring it down to that lowest crazy possible thing. Okay, so what else do you got? I'm falling asleep on the science here, though. Not gonna lie, we should open up to some questions. Oh no, you got one more page. Okay, go.
Is it that much science?
No, it's not. Maybe it's just because
I worked really hard to make that not. Okay.
I mean, no, I thought it was great. If you guys thought it was great, smash that like button, put a thumbs up in there if you're enjoying the science part of it. If you want to hear Grace's political views, smash that. I'm just kidding.
It's not that sciencey.
No, you're right. It's not that sciencey. Sorry.
Exercise.
But still, smash that last button. Okay, don't talk like that. It's inappropriate.
When we're exercising and we're in like
metabolic conditioning, Metcon.
We're talking about as exercise. So like the part where we're like getting relatively uncomfortable, that's like 65 to 85% of our percents that we have.
Is this like the intensity talk with like how that affects the energy that you
that's too scientific for
got
us.
It.
We're not
got
doing
it.
that. Got it. But our body loves carbohydrates as our energy source. Now, if we're talking again, it's like literally as Jen Parker. If we're talking about in terms of long distance training, actually maybe lower carb too, but in terms of like long distance training and like really, really long distance training, becomes maybe a different story when we're at like a super low intensity. But for like generally what we're talking about, our body is going to use carbohydrates mainly as its main source of fuel, and it loves it, and that's what it wants to come from. So all that we're talking about in terms of that glucose that everything breaks down into gets stored in our body, in our liver, and in our muscles as glycogen. So that's just like the term that it's called. So
now, does glycogen have any effect with the protein you're eating too?
The faster that you can get in, that's why we have carbohydrates with our protein, because
when we recovered, we talked about that.
Yeah, our muscles want to restore that glycogen. But that can kind of happen like over time versus our body. The protein is important because our body wants to like really start that process of building our muscles back up. So like, yes, carbohydrates definitely help kind of like pull that in, but
most important thing is a protein for recovery right away.
For recovery when talking about muscle building. Now, not recovery when it's talking about energy, because if you guys are like really, really low carbohydrates and like really worrying about that, you're going to notice it very quickly in your exercise, because it's not that you need to get in tons and tons, but your the carbohydrates that you get, like I already said, that goes to your nervous system and all that kind of function. And that definitely gets number one. Like your brain gets to function before you get to do squat cleans. So,
well, you all know that when like
sometimes your brain doesn't function.
Yeah, like if you're feeling lethargic and stuff like that, and like you've experienced this, and so have I, because like a lot of the mental energy that we put out as like coaches inside the class, and then you'll be coming home and working on some intensive group project for school or something like that.
And you try to go like work out.
Yes, and then you try to go do try to do squat snatch or something, and your brain just not connecting and not firing, and that happens to be why.
No, that's
by the way,
real.
Lynette gave a thumbs up. Vanessa said she's so here for the science of it. Ryan said love the science as well.
Thank you, you guys.
So they're all on board with the science part of it there.
Yeah,
Ryan also had a question.
The mat part of the show.
What foods replenish glycogen, and what type of workouts did you intentionally, or what types of workouts should you intentionally replenish glycogen storage?
After. So that's okay.
After.
So glycogen is the storage in our muscles. And generally, if we're talking about like CrossFit workouts, like generally we're talking about like under 30 minutes of like intense exercise, though we're talking about like, 20 minutes before that. We could take the average from our
class programming, which is like 16 minutes of work on average.
But you're still moving around and your heart rate's like elevated during the warm up and stuff too.
Correct.
But yeah, unless we're talking long distance running or any of that kind of aerobic stuff, it's not super crazy important to replenish your glycogen. like immediately after, because generally getting in foods will continue to replenish your glycogen throughout the rest of the day. So it's not as vital to get it in as quickly as it is to get in protein after a strength workout.
Would you say if they're feeling like a little lethargic and stuff after the workout, that's more of a product of what they're eating prior to their workouts?
So that comes in next week too, because that can
But the quick answer is yes.
Yeah, kind of what you've been having overall. But when you're exercising, your body is absorbing that blood glucose, which is why exercise is so great for you. And helps in like people with diabetes and whatnot, because it's for type 2, but like it's pulling that in, and that's like a good kind of thing. And that has to do with how you're acting after. And if you're like, some of our members have gotten like shaky and whatnot after, that's more of your blood sugar. But having the glycogen storage coming from any kind of carbs after a workout is great, but it's not like we're training like long distance athletes usually. So kind of just replenishing your protein and carbs at the same time will pretty much take care of it for us as training to just be better in general fitness, but not like, again, do an Ironman. So, but something that is really cool is we talk about lactic acid, and generally I'd say we feel it on the assault bikes.
Oh yeah.
You guys feel your legs go, and then you can't move your legs anymore. So, we say that that's actually like lactic acid that's in our bodies. Like, oh my God, it's the lactic acid in my legs. And it's actually, your legs are feeling your blood is turning acidic, but it's hydrogen ions, which you guys have like seen like H or H plus. It's those things floating around by the whole thing that lactic acid does. Those are floating around in your muscles. And that's actually more what you're feeling, not like
that's the
lactic
toxin,
acid itself.
Right. That's the toxin that is being produced from the muscle contracting to produce the energy.
Yeah. So it's when it's not, I mean, like, so
it's like the exhaust coming out of your car.
Toxically toxic. No, that's like way more toxic. It's not
not like in terms of toxic acid.
Because you have hydrogen, we know we have hydrogen all the time. But it's just when you have an abundance of it and your body
it's the byproduct of it.
Yeah, no, it totally is, because your body can't put it to where it needs to go. So that's happening in the conversion when you don't have, and like we're saying, like the glycolysis from what your energy is, or your body has stored as energy into the energy. When that's happening and there's not enough oxygen, not that you're not breathing it in, it's just your muscles can't get it because your muscles are contracting so fast and so hard that then that kind of flood happens. And that's what you feel as like that lactic acid buildup when you're like, boom, in your legs, which is just kind of something interesting in it for some of us. And that same kind of replenishment that can happen when the oxygen is around, but that system can't be tapped into because that system is giving that ATP too slow, and our muscles are continuing to contract because we're still revving the assault bike. So then it's just not enough for what's happening, and that flood of that hydrogen happens, and your body's like, oh, hold on, I don't love this feeling at all. Then you like can't really walk, it's like you got off a bull.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, but the cool thing is when you're doing any kind of like, we definitely realize this in, there's different ways that you'll feel like your training is getting better. So like when we start eating better, people will be like, oh, my workouts are better, I just have more energy, whatnot. That's coming from a lot of things. But one of them is because our bodies are getting better at storing all that energy. So all that muscle glycogen, once we kind of deplete it and then we bring it back in, it's like the hole gets a little bigger every time for how much it can store. Sort of speaking. So then our bodies can store it a little bit better. So then we can access it and we have more energy to use the next time that we're doing a workout. And you're kind of like, I just feel like way better. I have way more energy today. That's because that's kind of also what's happening as you continue to work out. One of those things that like you just get fitter because that's happening.
Yeah. And I'll say that everybody notes this, like in like a 5-round workout, midway through the challenge, week 6, or when they finish the challenge, meaning they've been eating clean for 8 weeks. Like when they get into that 3rd or 4th round, they're like, it's still like uncomfortable, but it just feels better. And that's just because your body is using such a cleaner and better source of energy more efficiently, more effectively, that you're just able to push through the workout much easier.
You've been giving it
much better. You'll recover faster after the workout.
And you've been giving it good sources to recover and get all that stuff back into where it needs to go. So you're still, we've always been asking our bodies to deplete as we do in CrossFit. Like we're asking our muscles to do a lot, but then generally after, we don't really give them enough credit for what they've done. We don't really repay them that well. But then the next day we're like, I didn't PR my deadlift.
Right.
This is like what I did on Wednesday.
Crap, didn't stretch.
Yeah. And what, I just like did a PR. Like I've been trying hella hard in the gym. You're like, yeah, but you haven't been trying crazy hard outside of the gym. So all of those things, like they so play into everything you're trying to do. So it can really just like in a positive way, it can really just like help all your workouts. It can help your body feel better, all of those things. If you're just aware of kind of what you're putting into your body.
Yeah.
And then I think that the last little part of this is just what kind of comes in with carbohydrates and eating them is just the distress that our stomach can feel sometimes. And now that comes from a lot of like, so you're trying to work out and then all of a sudden your stomach's like, ooh, really. That can come from the breakdown, and that's not even necessarily working out, but that is lactose. So that's lactose intolerance. Your body just doesn't have, it's called an enzyme, but it's a science term. So it's basically the puzzle piece that helps you break it apart. So your body doesn't have that puzzle piece. And that also happens with gluten for some of us. In a different way, the gluten is a protein on its own, and our body just can't break that down and do what it needs to do. It doesn't have the workings of the puzzle pieces to break down gluten. So if you are kind of generally have more issues when you eat like a lot of dairy or a lot of gluten, even if it's not like super intense, avoiding those during workout or before workout times could really help you because your body then. Also, the other ones are sometimes people have that issue with fructose. So that's a lot of fruit sugar, which is generally some people are fine. It's just if you overload your stomach with it, not so great sometimes. Caffeine and sugar alcohols are the other things that are hard when you're working out because so we've introduced food. That's why food before your workout, when we talked about nutrient timing, is important to get it like 30, 40 minutes before, or else we've dumped in a bunch of food into our stomach. But now we've done a lot of exercise and our quads are burning and our lats are burning because we've been doing wall balls and pull-ups. So those muscles generally are where your body is like, hold up, we need to send the blood out there because those muscles are working really hard. So the blood stops being in your digestive tract and it goes out to those muscles. And now all that has to process and go through your stomach isn't happening nearly how it's supposed to. And this can also happen for people that are like running. There's a different way that it kind of like pulls the water and it pulls the blood into the different ways. And you can experience a lot of like GI issues with that. So that's why it's good to it's for each person, but to eat farther away from exercise and then definitely figure out what kind of foods work for you around exercise will definitely give you the best kind of result. You awake over here?
Boom. I'm ready to digest my dinner. So I'm going to wrap this sucker up.
Oh, he's going to wrap this sucker up.
Grace knows, and one thing that maybe I'll work on in the future, but probably not, is once I start to get impatient, get over it, and get hungry, I'm just out.
After all, is the Matt show. This is not giving you guys information. This is Matt needs beans and salmon.
Beans and salmon.
And beans.
I'm thinking something else. Okay, so we do have a question here. I can't even pronounce that word, but I'll throw it up on there. Go for it.
Yeah, that's way more intense than anyone else needs to know about in terms of yeah, no, we're good.
Okay,
we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's just a lot
next week.
Yeah. No.
A lot of backstory.
But are there other? Yeah, just of if you're already got beans and salmons. But did any of you guys? Did I? It was too sciencey. But
no, it wasn't. I think people enjoyed it when we said that. We got some feedback on it. You haven't really.
I don't think it was too sciencey.
So I think you're good.
Honestly, it was
so a couple more minutes
sciencey.
here. If you guys have any questions, throw your questions in.
But in terms of the challenge, that was that last thing too that we were going to wrap up with. I had said today that I wanted to give us places to meet outside of just the gym and on Sundays when we do all of our runs that you guys love. Also, again, shout out to Dylan for bringing out that speaker yesterday. So no, Ryan, you don't have to be sorry. I just don't want to lose everyone else too. But Dylan bringing the speaker so that we had music today because that was fun, right? And Dylan just brought that last night. Very nice of him. But I wanted to just have the challenge because everyone's always like really just in like it's like a positive bunch of energy. So I wanted to just capitalize on that. So we're going to have just like a meeting place for some kind of exercise. Possibly we'll do the challenge. We'll have a time to meet up for the challenge workout itself or the extra. And they'll be at different times because people have lives. So then this week it'll be Friday at 9 or 9:30. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. And that one's at like Butt Burner Hill at the backside of Del Val. So if you're down for a hike,
that's AM.
It's AM. If you're down for a hike and you're down to kind of be around other people, but everyone will have like a little bit of space around them, you're welcome to come to that. absolutely no points tied into any of it because it's literally the middle of a workday for most like regular life people. And then next week we'll try to do it sometime in the afternoon on a different day. So then people who obviously have a regular person work schedule could try to get that. But I'll try to give it like at least like a week in advance so you guys can try to plan if you wanted to meet up for that.
Cool.
This is all.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, throw your questions in
Savannah
now.
loves
We're
the
gonna
science.
give it another
Science.
minute. Yes, Savannah does.
Science.
Don't. Okay, so we have that. Yeah, and I don't mean that it's too sciencey. I'm just always like,
Matt's just tired.
Once you start to get going, I have to
It's
be.
past 2 in the afternoon.
I have to be up early and coach the morning class. And
right,
then
you guys did at 6:29 p.m.
Yes, which we still have to get dinner together, and I still gotta get up the programming, and I still gotta go back to the gym to get it set up for.
I don't hear any of that being anything but a personal
complaining is contagious. Don't spread it to others.
It sounds like you didn't set up the gym earlier and you didn't do the program, so don't hate on my science.
I'm not hating on your science. We're good.
Science.
We're good. I don't know why you do that.
I think that we should let them go. I think that we should let them go. I think it is time for you guys to go. I think it is time for us to go. Congrats to Andre and congrats to the Eliminators.
And I would have set it up before, but we didn't have time, remember? Okay, boom. We out? Are we out?
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Next week, we're talking about sugar. Sugar. So fly, is that what that song was?
That's right. One of that.
Sugar.
Thank you so much.
Wait. So fly?
Has anyone ever won the screen share 2 times in a row? Andre,
I don't know. Can
what?
It be done?
I love it.
I don't think anyone's ever tried that hard, but I am definitely down to see.
I love it. What's Vanessa say? And I love Grayson. Cool.
Let the people go.
Lynette said excuses. You're right, Lynette. I'm making a ton of excuses. That's one thing I love about the gym, about the workouts too, is like I get in there and I harass everybody for complaining and making excuses. And then in return, I get held accountable for when I do it, which is a good thing because I should be.
This is true.
And so, yes, thank you for that. And you are correct. And then Andre, you're about to see Andre, thank you for participating. Don't be afraid, Andre, to go in and then to your own YouTube and then like and subscribe so we can get one more there.
What was your excuse for losing to me so much on Friday?
What was my excuse for the thruster rope climb workout?
Yeah, why'd you lose so much?
Okay, so anytime Grace beats me in a workout, which occurs frequently, I usually then immediately come up with an excuse.
You should have used 44-pound kettlebells. That was ridiculous.
Like, the 35s are too short. Or the other one I did all the time.
You didn't do the dude's rope climb. So
I said count. She should do the more on the rower. Yeah, anyways, that's what I do.
So those are excuses. So Atomic Habitly, you're going to work on that.
No, probably not.
Probably not.
I'm going to be complacent in my excuses, but that's okay.
Okay, we're going to let you guys go.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll see you next Sunday at 5:30. So join. Don't forget, Shooting the Fit podcast live at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. That's not with Grace, but that is with myself. All right. We'll see you guys next